Only there's going to be more than two of us, isn't there? Welcome, huge movie fanatic Nate, stopping on by. This time I'm coming your way to present yet another one of my famed movie/Blu-ray reviews. Today I'm delighted to stop on by and review the movie and Blu-ray of A Place in the Sun. My history with this movie goes all the way back to probably when I was 12 years old, seeing Friday the 13th, Part 5, A New Beginning. There's a scene in the youth mental facility, whatever the hell they are, country mental rest house, wherever the movie takes place there in Pinehurst, where this one guy and this young guy and young girl are sitting on the couch during a thunder rainstorm and watching a movie. And for decades, I'd always wondered what the hell movie it was. And it turns out it's this movie. Years ago, since I've had this channel for such a long time, like a decade and a half, or pushing in a decade and a half, years ago I did ask the question to viewers and stuff, and I was presented with the answer what the movie was, and then I never bothered to see it. And then cut to 2025, I showed Beth the original Lolita. And then days, weeks later or whatever, I try to watch all the first 7 Friday the 13th films like twice a year, like once in the spring and then once in the towards the end of summer. And once when I was watching Friday 5, that came to that scene where they're watching that old movie, and I'm like, you know what, that sounds like, since we just seen Shelley Winters whine and all this and that in Lolita, I'm just like, that sounds like Shelley Winters' whiny old voice. Then I looked online to see what movie she's in, and sure enough, oh yeah, A Place in the Sun, that sounded familiar. So I actually was able to see A Place in the Sun sometime last year. It was probably a long time, maybe the summer, probably the summer. I was actually able to find it online. It wasn't even YouTube, it was just one of these weird, there was that other movie where Hal Holbrook wanted to kill his whole family and then himself. It was the same kind of site where I was able to see that movie. I was able to see this movie, and cut to like I don't think I thought too terribly much of it, and cut to like it was like November or something. They actually had the Blu-ray on sale for like $9 on Amazon, and I'm like, it was the November Black Friday holiday sale, and I'm like, why don't I just get that? What the hell? And and I showed Beth I showed Beth it last night, and we watched it. First time me watching the Blu-ray, and second time me seeing it, first time Beth seeing it. And I got to tell you, god dang it, even for $9 I probably shouldn't have got it, but life goes on. So the mystery movie that has been eluding me for decades, the mystery movie that they watch in Friday the 13th Part 5 is indeed A Place in the Sun. Came out in, I want to say, in 1951, stars Elizabeth Taylor, Montgomery Clift, and Shelley Winters. And I'm a big fan of old movies. I love movies going all the way back to the silent era and the 30s, and I really like movies of the early and mid 30s, and 30s in general, and movies of the 40s and 50s. And as has been spoken so many times on this channel, my least favorite decade of movies is probably the 1960s. But I love old movies, and this is a rare occasion. It happens every now and then, where it's like, a lot of times I think to myself, do I like this movie, any old random particular old movie, do I like this movie so much because it's an old movie or because it's a good movie, or whatever. And this is a case where it's just like, just because it's an old movie doesn't mean I'm going to automatically like it. Honestly, the cinematic style of this movie I find to be just very strange, almost like it could almost border on like creative, but it comes off as being like lazy, like a shot. A lot of times I give a movie props for like having a big long extended shot without a lot of coverage and stuff, but in this movie it almost seems like just lazy. There's several scenes that kind of take place in one shot, and normally I'd say that's kind of cool or creative. They don't feel like they got to go in for coverage or whatever, but arguably that kind of style could either be seen as incompetent, or it's either at the bottom of the barrel incompetent, or it goes past just normal competence to like greatly competent, where it's like, well, that's really, really cool. That shows. So a shot that is just like a static shot that a whole scene plays out in one shot can either be just grossly negligent and incompetent, or go all the way to just masterful. And I feel like in a lot of cases, those shots in this movie are not incompetent per se, but more towards just the laziness, or I don't know what the hell it is. I find the cinematic style of this movie to be really strange, and there's several instances throughout the whole movie. It's like 2 hours long. It's kind of long for 1951. That they do these really weird dissolves, which I don't like at all. I've never liked like okay, we're going to dissolve from this scene to another scene, but in between the dissolve, we're going to put like a third dissolve that never actually fully becomes an image. It's almost like supposed to be some kind of subconscious thing, and it just, actually, I don't know if it was because of this. I actually woke up with a headache this morning, and I was just kind of going to make a joke like, God, is it because of this, watching this movie with these like three-way dissolves, and the middle one that never fully materializes into anything, and it's just like, upon my second viewing of watching this, I'm just like, God, I don't really like this movie. Like, I think this is like the only movie I've seen Montgomery Clift in my opinion, like the acting all across the board, more or less, of this movie is just like bad. And I don't know. Well, Raymond Burr's in this. I don't know if this movie helped to get him onto the Perry Mason role. I would imagine this is before Perry Mason, 1951. But Raymond Burr's in the second half of this as a very Perry Mason kind of a character and stuff. And I guess he was probably my favorite performer in this movie. But like Montgomery Clift, as I said, this is probably the only movie I've seen him in. Didn't blow my socks off. I mean, I guess he plays the kind of uneducated, whatever the hell he is, handsome, quiet fool or whatever the hell he is, well. But I found the character to just be not very interesting. I don't know if you're supposed to find a character interesting. The most interesting aspect of this movie, of course, is Elizabeth Taylor in 1951. Oh my God, talk about a body. You get to see her in a one-piece bathing suit, and the body and the legs, and just, I mean, not just the body, but the face and everything. Like, Elizabeth Taylor's probably the most interesting, exciting aspect of this movie. Unfortunately, she's not in it that much at all. Though the story, I'll briefly say the premise of the story, which Woody Allen might have ripped off in his early 2000s or his early 2000s film Match Point, which I saw when it was new on home video. I recently showed Beth Match Point, so I recently revisited Match Point, which I think is, which is fine. It was kind of an interesting, at the time it was an interesting departure for Woody Allen, doing something more, whatever, dramatic or whatever. But having seen this now, it's just like, well, either Woody Allen intentionally just stole the story from this, or unintentionally stole the story from this. But Montgomery Clift plays this drifter who hitchhikes into town. He's a part of is his uncle a part of this, big, huge family of rich people that's got a big business. I can't even remember what the name is. Eastman. Yeah, Montgomery Clift is George Eastman. I don't know, the Eastmans are some big, rich, family who have the big, I don't know if they make anything other than women's bathing suits, but if they make anything more than women bathing suits, pretty much all we're privy to is in the movie is the fact that they make women's bathing suits. And he's got a card and a handwritten thing on this card to go visit, one of these big, huge Eastmans at the Eastman whatever, plant or whatever. And anyway, to make a long review not so long, he tries to get in with them, sees the gorgeous, like the gorgeous Elizabeth Taylor is among the the young gorgeous people that adorn the Eastmans, and this and that. And once he gets a glimpse of her, he's just lustful, and of course they call it love in the movie. Instantly fell in love with you. Like, how can you fall in love with someone anyway? We'll just say what it is. It's instantly fell in lust with her. She didn't see him on the first, when he saw her. Later on, she sees him, and it's like this, on her end, instant falling in lust as well. And by this time, he's already met Shelley Winter's character, just this homely kind of, woman who works 6 days a week putting all these bathing suits in boxes at the factory, the Eastman factory. And so the movie starts where he and she start a relationship where she gets knocked up, and then he ends up, meeting pursuing and meeting and having an amicable relationship with Elizabeth Taylor, and then, realizes that, yeah, I'd rather actually, I've got a choice here. What do I want to do? Be with the hotter chick who's, in the rich family as I'm moving up and up and up in the Eastman company, or do I want to be with this fledgling, woman who's kind of homely and works 6 days a week putting bathing suits in, boxes, and we're just going to kind of struggle to survive, gee, I wonder what I want to do. So it's kind of this situation where there's really no way out other than to, basically kill the Shelley Winters character in the famous scene, which you see a part of in Friday the 13th, Part 5.
And we could go anywhere we wanted. We could live in the biggest house in the world if we wanted.
Where he takes her out on the boat and with the intention of drowning her. And what's interesting, probably the most interesting aspect of this whole movie, other than just frickin' Elizabeth Taylor circa 1951, is the fact that he takes Shelley Winters out into the boat, paddles way the hell out of Dodge. I think it's supposed to be even nighttime when this happens, with the thought to kill her. It looks like he's not maybe going to be able to go through with it. She ends up falling overboard just on her own, and she ends up drowning anyway. So probably the most interesting aspect of this movie is the fact that it's like, then it's this, the second half is this thing where he gets drug into the, drug to court, and they got the Raymond Burr, frickin' Perry Mason scene at the courtroom and stuff. But the dilemma, I guess the moral, I don't know if it's moral dilemma, but and it even comes out in the trial, yes, I brought her out on the boat with the intention to kill her, and then I decided not to kill her, but she ended up falling overboard and drowning on her own. And, it's kind of the situation where as it wears on, and you kind of really wonder what the jury's going to decide. I'm not going to ruin that part for you, but I kind of don't necessarily think the movie has to exist for 2 hours to say this quite simple premise. Granted, I don't think there's necessarily anything that is boring per se during the movie, but does it need to be 2 hours? I don't know. I don't know, but it just seems like, God, maybe it's a little, I mean, if none of it is boring, then I guess it being 2 hours is fine or whatever. My problem with the movie is, it's just, as I said, the acting I find to be particularly, there's not much humor. I mean, I'm granted not every movie needs humor. It just, the acting, the characters are not that interesting. The cinematic style, in my opinion, is just kind of weird, almost like, the director or whoever is trying to do something fancy, and it's just coming across as, as I said, potentially incompetent. Or, there's so many dark scenes, and I suppose that's intentional, but there's so many scenes that are even darker than you'd think, for being way back then. It's just so striking in a bad way how dark some of these scenes are, and it's just God, can't you, there's got to be another way to do that. I can understand if you want, because of the dire situation or whatever the scene may represent. I can understand wanting to have Montgomery Clift in shadow or something, but then do something where the top, his face can be in shadow, but maybe, I don't know, the lights on the top of his head kind of thing. But there's several scenes that are it's almost like it was incompetently photographed, because there's only one little bit of thing that's lit up in the frame, and it's what, we can only assume this is some kind of conscious decision, but it's just that's what I'm talking about. The cinematic choices in some instances are just really bewildering. Look at Citizen Kane, at the beginning of the movie, where after the newsreel plays, and you got that one guy silhouetted against the bright background kind of thing. That's obscuring the guy without you know, by still having a bright image. And it's just like I'm trying not to go on too much more about it, but as I said in closing, some of the just cinematic choices, very, very questionable in my opinion. So that's the movie. Not a whole hell of a lot to write home about. It kind of struggled with my star rating. I can go probably as high, right down the middle, as 2 stars out of 4 stars for A Place in the Sun. Saw it twice now. Bought the Blu-ray for $9. Kind of regret it. Like, I don't see myself necessarily watching this too terribly often, but life goes on until it doesn't, as Sydney, is it Pollock? What the hell do you pronounce his last name says? Now on to my review of the Blu-ray, which I think, what's it say? Paramount Presents is proud to bring this movie to Blu-ray, remastered from a 4K film transfer in celebration of its 70th anniversary. So this, one can only assume this came out in 2021, if I'm doing the math correctly. First off the bat, this cover that they choose or have worked up for the cover art of the slipcover, well, I think it's the cover underneath the slipcover as well, I find to be really just kind of lame, like this computer-generated imagery, which is kind of supposed to approximate that one scene where they go out on the boat and the radio's on the dock, and as they go out and have fun buzzing around on the water on the boat, the radio is talking about the murder or whatever the hell it's talking about. So I understand what the cover is supposed to approximate, but I mean, it just, for a movie from 1951 to have like a computer graphically created cover is just kind of goofy to me. And if you know anything about these Paramount Presents line of Blu-ray releases, I think I've got 2 of them, this and Trading Places, which also was on sale. I didn't get, I pondered getting for years and years and years, but I think it was the cheapest it had ever been this past Black Friday holiday season, so I also got the Trading Places Paramount Presents Blu-ray. But if you're familiar with these, I think the majority of them, probably all of them, have this feature where you open up you got the slipcover and you can open it up like this to reveal the original theatrical poster, which is kind of an interesting, like, why not just put it on the front cover? It kind of would make more sense, but this is a way to be fancy schmancy, I guess, and have the original theatrical poster inside a flap on the slipcover. Surprise, surprise, when you take the slipcover off, this is what the cover looks like. Special features are pretty sparse. New filmmaker focus. Leonard Maltin on A Place in the Sun. No, I didn't even bother to watch that. Not a big, huge Leonard Maltin fan personally. We've also got George Stevens and his Place in the Sun. Must be some little video commentary by George Stevens Jr. and that guy, George Stevens. Filmmakers who knew him, must have been just interviews with filmmakers who knew him. And then you've got theatrical trailers. This being my first home video version I've ever owned of this movie on home video, I don't have a lot to compare it to, but I will say that for the most part it's a really nice, purported to be a 4K scan of, they don't say what elements, one can assume original camera negative, who the hell knows, but I found the image to be fairly high definition-y and sharp and this and that. Like I say, I was very surprised, as I said, not being so familiar with this movie and not really having seen too many different versions. I can only assume them dark scenes that appear in this film. I think there's only like 2 or 3 dark scenes. I mean, we can only assume they're supposed to be that way. One, in the past, one would be like, God, what the hell, is that a defect of the transfer, the film to tape scan? Like, what the hell's going on there? But there's, I can't get over them dark scenes. It's just like, whatever. But on the whole, the image is really solid and strong, and really no complaints with the image. As I said, I don't have anything to really compare it to, but there's no huge negatives I could find with the image for this Blu-ray presentation. Pretty sure the only English language track on this Blu-ray release is actually, strangely enough, a 5.1 surround mix. I just watched it on the TV with the 2 speakers. It didn't even sound, of course the TV with the two speakers isn't that stereo-ish necessarily, but it didn't even necessarily sound in stereo at all or anything. But I can't, obviously, not having watched it on 5.1 surround receiver, I can't comment on the nature of the 5.1 surround mix. I don't know why the hell why they would have ever done that to this movie from 1951. We're gonna 5.1. Like, who the hell watching this is even gonna? I don't know. It's just very strange to me that that this movie, you know, is just randomly 5.1. But I didn't necessarily notice any audio anomalies or anything of the like to report. So it almost, like I say, it does kind of make me interested to demo it on 5.1 and see what the hell it sounds like. I can't imagine it sounds any kind of good or whatever at all, but that's just so weird to me. This is what the Blu-ray disc itself looks like. I actually kind of like the artwork there, just a passionate embrace and a passionate kind of kiss that you kind of can't really see. We've got Paramount Presents logo there. If I'm not mistaken, this very well might be the very first time this movie has appeared on Blu-ray, but I don't know much about this movie, so I might be correct, I might be wrong. We can see their feature film and special features are included on this disc. You can see DTS Master, or DTS HD Master audio. I would imagine the 5.1 is possibly in that, and then you've got Dolby Audio, which maybe some of the other languages and things are replicated in. You've got SDH, which I don't know what that means. What does that mean? I don't know. Not rated, and all your other information here. On the inside of the front and back cover, if you remove the disc, you can see this imagery here. Just black and white stills on each side and a kind of a colorized still, dramatic still in the center there, and some kind of quote here. Yeah, the film is in no hurry. Yeah, that's for sure. Let me see. Yeah, he took his time to tell the story and let it breathe. I guess that's one way to say it. Yeah. Who the hell's quoted that? Oh, is that Leonard Maltin? Okay, yeah, well, Leonard Maltin. But that kind of colorized center image kind of replicates the whole tone of this 2-hour movie, kind of somber and depressing. Guess that about does it for this review. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, we'll catch you on the next video.